If you want to see something change in your community, you got to be someone that helps make that change happen. You can't just be shouting from the sidelines. That doesn't make an impact. If you're truly passionate about something, you got to do it. Get inspired for your community, fight for your community.
So you go to Brooklyn, did you say for 12 years?
Yes.
And that's where you learn a lot about urbanism in terms of like designing a city.
Yeah.
And that's where you start dabbling in social media a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started doing marketing what all did I do? So I started in like the design world. I worked for places like Condé Nast, designing magazines. I worked for Scholastic, designing books, and also like, the book clubs that you got at school.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I designed.
Like the book fairs?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
designed
awesome.
the Arrow, like book club sheets.
Oh, wow.
And then like I freelanced my way through New York.
Okay.
Worked at Edelman and kind of like just like creating press releases, worked for the MTA, designing signs for like delays.
Sure.
And like I just kept freelancing through it. And then I landed at an apparel company where I was like a production artist, but then I quickly took ownership of actually their production department as well as their marketing department. So I became their marketing director and their licensing director at the same time.
Okay.
And then I took ownership of like their gift with purchase programs. Like I was working really closely with WWE and with Marvel and Disney.
Cool.
And places like that. And I started to learn more about marketing through that. And then I got a job in outdoor advertising, specifically transit advertising. Doing experiential marketing for some like the biggest companies in the world, but also graphics on the side of buses, train cars, stuff like that. So that was one of my entrances into Charlotte again, was like having, that relationship with Vector Media and with Cats and doing advertising on the sides of trains here.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Okay. You landed that job once you got here, or was that kind of like...
So that was actually in Brooklyn.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was, coming back and forth every once in a while, and my parents still lived in Charlotte.
Got it. Okay. So you had ties here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was like when I first started cutting my teeth from a social media perspective, from a experiential marketing perspective, from an ad placing perspective and an ad buying perspective. And also gave me the opportunity to do more brand work. And I also had my own company on the side. Like this whole time I had a company, it was called Advark.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it was advertising and architecture. I would do like floor plans for people, and I would still dabble in architecture, at least what I could do as an unlicensed architect.
Got it.
But then did a lot of brand work, advertising, logo work. Like I really honed in on that, the design aspect of it. And then I started writing, which then, started writing in 2025 for Charlotte 5 and then Charlotte Agenda, then Axios later, Charlotte Magazine, RIP. And, started to get that content creator kind of vibe. And then by 2019, I didn't really want to be edited anymore.
Yeah.
I had some run-ins with, things that got changed up that I wasn't a fan of.
Yeah.
So I decided I want to be my own editor. And that's when I started doing content and doing CLTDevelopment.
When I first moved to Charlotte, I think the first two like accounts or like things that people were like, oh, you got to follow this. It was 2020. So it must have been Charlotte Agenda still. It was that. And then the next one I found was your page, the CLTDevelopment, of just like, here's what's coming here, like this new cool rendering of this and all that. And so you started that as sort of like a side hustle or maybe in the way of like, it wasn't necessarily meant to be like an income producer as it was like a tool to network.
Yes.
So where did the light bulb start where you're like, this is an opportunity for me?
Well, I mean, so I still wanted to, like, when I was writing about projects and stuff like that for Charlotte Agenda or Charlotte 5 or whomever, like I was still having the opportunity to be like face to face with someone on the phone.
Yeah.
At the time. It always threw people off when I was like, hey, I can't meet with you because I live 600 miles away.
Yeah.
But it still gave me the opportunity to get FaceTime with people that were influential in the development world, in the cultural space, in food and beverage. And so like I still wanted to retain that because ultimately like my wife and I had a 10-year goal. We were going to live in New York for 10 years. We were there for 12. But I wanted to arrive in Charlotte as a known commodity because honestly, New York is a place where if you don't know anyone, you really can't ascend. Like it takes really like the biggest network in the world, the biggest support structure. And like when we moved to Brooklyn, we didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
So we still had great friends, but they were on the same level as us. So like I wanted to get to Charlotte as a known commodity with, with some clout, I guess.
Yeah.
I hate that term.
Yeah.
Just so that I could, be in boardrooms. And then when COVID hit, I tripled down on that. I actually had 2 full-time jobs at the same time because you could do that during COVID.
Right.
And I needed the money. But like, I was working here and working there a little bit. And so I wanted that network. And it just became really important. And yeah, during COVID, so it gave me the opportunity to do this wonderful thing called Zoom.
Yep.
So that gave me the opportunity to, get with places like Charlotte is Creative, who've become some of my dear friends and collaborators, and get to know people in the cultural sector and then people in the advertising agency realm and continue to meet more developers, meet people in the city. I mean, that's how I became a planning commissioner for the city of Charlotte. Pretty much as soon as I got here, I was on the ordinance advisory committee for the city of Charlotte, shaping the UDO. So like that's when I started getting into civic engagement as well.
Got it.
So like 2020 really springboarded so much of this because I don't know that I would have had the opportunity to do this without, we started the process of moving here. I was getting job interviews in like 2018, trying to become like more of a developer. And then, once I started to cut my teeth in the content creation and the storytelling world, I'm like, wow, okay, I like this. I'm good at this.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, then that's good that you've tried, especially in the freelancer world and then just like within development. It seems like you've kind of like tried a handful of different skills or just like a different day-to-day of like this of roles.
Yeah.
And you've kind of found like what you're good at. And I'm wondering like in your path of just the social media for yourself, like did you try a whole bunch of different like types of content before you kind of like found, hey, storytelling is like what I should do? Mm-hmm. And then I'm sure there was like an element of, well, telling stories like this versus like that. Like, so was it kind of like a conscious experiment or were you just throwing stuff at the wall? And
it was, there was quite a bit of strategy to it. When I was more prolific, honestly, before like 2 jobs ago, like they were not keen on the CLTDevelopment thing quite as much because while I was able to use my influence and the people I knew to bring in business development opportunities, like sometimes the content would be counterintuitive or counteractive to, what they were trying to do,
sure.
Which was like bring in vendors from like a multifamily perspective. So like I kind of throttled back, and now that I'm more of a public figure, quote unquote, for the Mint Museum, I've throttled back a little bit further as well. But like during that heyday where I was, I built 25,000 followers before I even started at the Mint Museum, like over the course of like a year and a half. And then things have slowed down since then. And it was really probably more like 20,000 followers at that point. And so I was doing contests. I had my own award show called the Cranies.
Sweet. Okay.
Like I was creating really engaging and fun content, that like not only was informative, but like tried to teach people like what was good design, like what was a good result. There were things that like Jason Thomas, who's word on the street CLT, that him and I were like able to push together to get things changed on projects. That's still something that I do today.
Cool.
And like, it was important to have that voice and how the city is shaped because I'm born and bred in Charlotte, and it's something we haven't said so far, but like Charlotte has been extremely important to me my whole life. And like, I want it to look like the Charlotte that I want it to be.
Yeah. Well, I think a cool call out there is like knowing what a good result is. Cause I think you said, urban planning, what makes a space work versus what doesn't. In like, if I'm sure the average person, if you showed them like 3 different versions of like a park or like a plaza, they might not really be able to point like what's good or bad. Like what are some of those things in your mind, like for Charlotte specifically, like what does make a good design versus like a one that's not doing what it's meant to do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's not really even like something that's visual. It's kind of like it's a feeling, it's a perception. Like the most successful places in Charlotte are the places that people could see themselves in, like on any given day. They want to return to it. Like I think we'll talk a little bit more about business later, but like one really great example is there have been 2 ice cream shops over in, I think it's Plaza Corners or something like that. You know where that is, on the corner of Central and the Plaza. So before it was Cold Hearted Gelato, now it is Seemingly Overzealous.
Yes, okay, I know.
And those 2 places, Cold Hearted Gelato had the best gelato I've ever had in my life. But it was gray. It felt like a dentist office. And no offense to the owner if they are listening. You had very, very good gelato. But now you have Seemingly Overzealous, the Garrett Tichy's brand. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, but and it is warm, it is welcoming, it is vibrant. It is a place that people want to return to every single day. You know, it's a place that is it's got so much potential in like its visual language that I think people return there. They feel like this is a place I should go. I mean, even the building itself is now painted bright blue, and it's a beacon. When you're driving past, you're like, oh, I want to figure out what that is. So having that bit of attention, it's that placemaking that really brings someone together. Like you can look at, we're right down the street from Independence Park. So that was Charlotte's first park, but it just went through a massive redevelopment. So they've given it new life. And they have brought in more spaces for people to actually gather in and to relax in. And when you ride by, walk by, take the bus by, like you see this wonderful place.
Yeah.
And like it's about, you have to ground a space and just make it so it's has the right opportunities for people to just be there.
Yeah. Well, I think Americans in particular have less and less third places, like places to go other than work and your couch. And the park is great. I love coming here and seeing the park there. I didn't realize it was the first park in Charlotte.
Interestingly, it was started by the guy that started the Charlotte Observer. He was an industrialist. It was like in the 1920s, maybe 1920. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, it was Charlotte's first park.
That's cool. I think the point you're making about the gelato place, to me, from like a marketing or like sales perspective, it like, especially for like an ice cream shop, right? You're bringing your family. Yes, you want the end product to be great.
Yes.
But it needs to be fun. It needs to be calming, or like, hey, my son just won a baseball game. Like, we're going to go celebrate. Where are we going to go? So like let's say that like Seemingly Overzealous and the gelato place, like let's say the quality of their product are equal. They're both a 9 out of 10, like great products, which they are.
Yes.
I had the gelato and Seemingly, both great. But you're right, like people come for the product and the vibe of the experience around the product as much as they come for like the quality of the product itself.
Yeah. And it's also about like knowing who is your shopper. Like in that case, it's like the Plaza Midwood moms were like, hey, I'm looking for something accessible that like I know my kid's going to like. And now they see that was Seemingly Overzealous, because like the flavors are approachable, even though it's made with coconut cream instead of, milk.
Yeah. Like I was surprised. Like I think Laura took me like the first time I had ever heard about it. It was like, oh, it's this vegan ice cream place, and I kind of like I kind of roll my eyes like, oh, all right, let's go see. And I don't really care one way or the other, but I kind of was okay. Prove it. Let's see how good this can actually be if it's vegan. Oh, whatever. And I went, and like, regardless of it being vegan, it is some of the best ice cream I've ever had. And it just like kind of happens to be vegan. And I like that, like their whole brand like kind of happens to be vegan. It's not like that's not the spearhead of like what they're doing, which resonates more with me because I don't care. I just want the ice cream to be good.
Yeah, it's kind of like Wooden Robot just happens to basically be gluten-free.
Yeah, right.
And they don't even talk about it.
Right. And I love that. And like for the right audience, I'm sure they have messaging and media and marketing available for, hey, if you're looking for gluten-free options, here's our solution. But that's not like what we do. And that's two good examples of like making that work and not being your whole brand or your whole thing.
Yeah.
What are some of the other like spots in town that from a design perspective, you're like, I really like what they're doing here with this space? Is there one that comes to mind?
For me, I have to really highlight so many of the different things at Camp North End that are really succeeding right now. Surefire Market and Kitchen, they make incredible smash burgers and sandwiches, but like they've made their entire persona that, and about like, and now they're undergoing some more changes as they've already getting very successful to actually bring the market back into that kind of, that display. It's like everything that I've been loving recently are like people that are doing pop-ups in particular. So, but from a design perspective, McHale's and Noda, I mean, what they were able to actually create there, from a nostalgia perspective, from like a true Irish pub perspective, is pretty dang cool. I don't know, man, that's so hard.
Okay, so like let's go back to social media and like with your channel in particular. So you kind of got the wheel going in COVID, or like a little bit before COVID, and tripled down in COVID. So that to me means like you got started somewhere on Instagram and then had to like learn TikTok at some point. Were you quick to that platform and realized it was an opportunity, or were you like me and kind of like, what is this new platform? Like, they kind of had to like earn it and go, okay, I guess I can't ignore it anymore.
Well, the nice thing about TikTok is like by the time that really came around, I started having a team supporting me because I was at the Mint. So like we dove into it from that perspective. So I haven't even really had to do as much on TikTok. My core platforms have always been Instagram and also Twitter/X.
Got it.
I don't use X quite as much now because it is a cesspool of crazies. And honestly, all of the word-based kind of like Threads and Blue Sky have all become like the based instincts of the worst people.
Yeah.
But like Instagram has still like, and using Reels and everything like that has been really important to me, and like being able to create cool content that's relatable.
Yeah, that's the key. I think like you can have the best strategy of like distributing all the content and like all the plans in the world, but if people don't resonate with it, or if it feels too like for you, I think that's a big misstep people make, is like the content seems really self-serving. So like it doesn't matter how good your distribution strategy is. It doesn't matter how good your team is. Like if people don't resonate with it, it's only going to go so far.
No, and I think it's really important, like if you're starting a small business, like it's important for you to do the content at first so that you can hone in your storytelling, so that you can know what is actually going to work for you and your customer. I mean, it doesn't have to be physically you, but it should be someone on your team. I believe very strongly in in-house marketing because like I had lunch with a business owner last week. I'm not going to say who they are. And they were talking about the fact that, they were, paying an agency $40,000 a year to do marketing, and it wasn't working at all.
Yeah.
And then when they took it over themselves, and started using their own voice and their own story, it was no longer manufactured feeling, it was authentic. Authenticity is the number one driver of the attention economy. It's not, when I first started running social media accounts for developers on the side, I was going in for people that were talking to the tenants, and I was like, you don't need to be talking to the tenants. The tenants are going to be few and far between, and it's going to be very unlikely that you would capture their attention. You need to be talking to your neighbors so that you can make your neighbors excited for what is to come. Like, this is not someone I worked with, but like Ally Charlotte Center, when I think it was Sprout Social out of Atlanta, also use people in your own community. When they took over their Instagram, they were talking about, we have 5 exits to our parking deck, so you can leave quickly and get on the highway. When what they should have been talking about is, and by the way, that was a building that was fully leased. So they didn't need to market to tenants.
Right, and that's the big selling point. We have 5 exits.
Yes, we have 5 exits. And it's like, no, what you need to be talking about is all this engaging ground floor retail, this pocket park that you're putting in the corner of the project, the property that will actually be beautiful and engaging and in an actual place. Like there is so much more to the architecture, to the place, to what the impact is for your neighbors. And that's what, as people try to build community, whether they be a developer, whether they be a small business, it's about talking to your target demographic and to the people that will actually experience your business, whether inside or out.
100%. That's a really good point. I think so many businesses make the mistake of just, I do this, it's this much money, I'm available 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Come on down to 123 Main Street if you're interested. See you later.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just an ad. It's not easy, and it takes time to like try to actually connect with your audience, but like it is playing the long game. And I think a lot of people miss that, and they just think that, well, I told them that I was open from 9 to 5 and I ran an ad. Why aren't people lining up? And it's like, well, even if the ad is set up perfectly and the targeting is perfect and the Google ad is set up perfectly, like if the messaging on your site and in your content isn't actually speaking to your audience and it's all kind of just like a billboard for you, it's not going to resonate.
No.
What are some of the things that you have gone through with your own content where in hindsight you're like, that was a miss in terms of like, I was trying to say this to my audience and man, it didn't come across or it didn't connect like I was hoping it would?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I definitely have had some failures here and there. But like, I can't remember a single one of them because I move on, try to learn from that and do something a little different. Sometimes I'll do some hot takes that don't that don't work so well. But really, I think I've had a pretty successful formula. And I mean, like the only things that I sometimes regret are the things that are paid partnerships because they perform so poorly. And like, at first when I started doing kind of those paid partnerships, I would do people's talking points. And then I realized, you know what? No, people aren't following me for their talking points. They're following me for my talking points.
Right.
So like that was probably the biggest miss was, being like, hey, here's yada, 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 what corporate marketing person wants. And finally one day I said, no, you're paying me for my voice. In like the rare cases that I am doing kind of influencer things, you're paying for my voice, my perspective, how I feel about your product. And not what your PR person tells me. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. And I think even like with a hot take or something like that, if those are like on a foundation of being authentic, like then like maybe, that was a little bit of a hot take. And okay, I thought people were I'm a hot take guy myself. So I have some swing and misses on the take, but I wasn't being disingenuous about my feeling behind it, So it's like maybe I was off that day, but it's on top of authenticity versus like a manufactured hot take or like a manufactured talking point.
I did once get canceled in Cleveland though.
Okay. Canceled in Cleveland sounds like a good podcast.
So Charlotte was vying for the headquarters of Sherwin-Williams.
Okay.
Back in like 2019 maybe. And I was like tweeting away, making fun of Cleveland. My wife's from Cleveland, so I can do that, I think. And I accidentally called it Sherman-Williams instead of Sherwin. And it got picked up by the Cleveland Browns, like mafia, basically. And I think it got 2 million views and maybe ended up on the news there. So that's probably my biggest communications failure. But I wear that. I had to mute that. It was not the most viral thing I ever did. The most viral thing I ever did was I took a video of this gentleman making sushi in Austin. And it went so viral. It got 15.5 million views.
Wow.
Because everyone was so in love with this. I mean, he was a beautiful, beautiful man. I'm not going to lie. Absolutely incredible looking dude. But it went mega viral.
Got it.
That one wasn't a mistake. That one was kind of fun.
Well, yeah. And that when something like almost random happens like that, is it hard to like not change your strategy and go, oh, that was I got to do more of this? Or do you just go, I'm going to stay my course and realize that was like partly good luck, right timing or whatever?
I mean, like I think it's just more proof to like sometimes, early on, like especially on like Twitter, you get the shut up and dribble kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're only here to follow you for development. And if that was the case, there wouldn't be so many of the people following me. I'm going to speak my mind. I am going to do things that interest me. And if that if someone else is interested and wants to follow along, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's part of the great thing about this being my page. I can talk about what I'm interested in and like what I hope other people might be interested in as well.
Does that help it feel like less of like an obligation or like a job? Because like you're doing what you want to do, what you like, not like, oh, I got to chase the algorithm. I got to give TikTok more videos. I got to do this for somebody else. Like you're doing it because you just like it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like from a professional's perspective, like looking at like impact and work with the Mint Museum, like we are having to chase the algorithm. We are having to do that. But really the strategy there, which is completely different, is to personify a 90-year-old institution and give it a friendly and relatable face that tries to break down the barriers of like, the folks that are like, that's hoity-toity, that's, I have to dress up to go to that. I can't just go to that in a sports jersey and shorts and tennis shoes. Like growing up, I had to go to the Mint in like a sport coat. It's not like that. So making sure that people understand that like a place is welcoming, that we are a third place, that we can actually, scratch that itch of something awesome to do while also being enriching, wholesome, and like something that you can take something away from.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like there's two sides of like what I do every day.
Yeah. So with, say like from 2020 to now, like you said, hey, at the Mint Museum, like I kind of have to battle the algorithm.
Yeah.
Like when you're playing that side of the coin, what are some of like the biggest differences you've seen in like the platforms themselves of like, or maybe the type of content that works on Instagram in this case? Like, is there a big difference between 2025 and 2020, or is it it's just more saturated and it's more competitive?
I think it's more saturated and more competitive. That's for sure. Like, I mean, one of the biggest things that I have to learn from, because like I've been part of managing a number of pretty successful accounts, but it's the accounts that haven't been successful that I've managed that have been like, that are basically saturation based. And that's when I've tried to have a food account, because my wife and I love to cook. And we're also like urban farmers. So we kind of have like an urban farming account. But like those things that I am passionate about that, I have to put a lot of labor into, it's so hard to like create content around that. Whereas the things that I have opinions on, that I have like ethereal knowledge of, are much easier. So it's like, I think that it was easier back then to do like the food account. Like when I had a food account in 2017, it was doing pretty well. And then today there's so much oversaturation there. You really have to find your unique proposition. And if you're doing food, you got to have like really high production quality and stuff like that. If you're doing something for like a museum, or even being like a development journalism, it's really about getting the information out there and doing it, with a good personality. You don't have to have the highest production quality at a museum like you do at a restaurant.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I don't need to go out and pay $30,000 to get videos cut together. I can have, and I mean $30,000 to a vendor for a single video,
Sure.
which is like, can be kind of the going rate these days for like something really polished. You can go and do, skits on Instagram. You can do, short videos and short interviews, things that are informative, but also super authentic.
Yeah. So much of like the Mint Museum, like the stuff that's there is interesting enough that like you don't necessarily, like you're trying to get the word out about it. You don't need like the fanciest camera ever to film something that's already cool.
Although I will say we do have a Sony A7. It is a fantastic camera. Hopefully they're a sponsor of this podcast. It is really the best camera I've ever shot with.
Okay.
So it is nice to have a high quality camera.
Yeah. I have a Sony, but I don't know what kind.
Yeah.
So shout out Sony.
Yes.
From a marketing social media perspective, like what are the KPIs that like you, because I'm sure it's not all about like, oh, great, we got a bunch of views in Cleveland. Okay. But that our true goal is like this, like, is there a set KPI in the social media realm?
Honestly, like set KPI is to be reflective of the demographics of Charlotte.
Okay.
Like that's number one. Like, it's kind of hard to track that because we're only doing zip codes, but we're trying to get in a accurate slice of people that are in Charlotte. And, we're also trying to grow our membership base at any given day. And we're just trying to continue to succeed when it comes to attendance. We've been, my first year at the Mint, we had a record for attendance because, we had Picasso Landscapes Out of Bounds, and that added an extra 75,000 people that came out to see that show. It was sold out every day. If it hadn't been COVID, post-COVID time, and we were still kind of abiding by some of those like set in restrictions and also insurance restrictions because Picassos are very expensive.
Yeah.
We probably could have had 200,000 people because we were sold out every day because that's what was pretty much handed to us. But like we have continued to grow how many people come every single year. I mean, like right now we're 57% have what was it? 57% more people have came through the museum so far this year compared to last year.
Wow.
So like we are really kicking butt already. So like getting more people to come in is a goal. Bringing more, members in is definitely a goal. But also like making sure that we establish the next generation of art lovers. Because like right now, our core visitors and our core members are on the older side. Like we need to make sure we're establishing, the Gen Z art lovers, the Gen Alpha art lovers, so that we can continue to have people that are coming to the museum while also, making sure people understand just how important art actually is. It's not just about art on walls. It's about enrichment. It's about learning how to, learning about what you like and what you don't like, why you may or may not like those things. Like there's so many intrinsic values to art that don't really get discussed, and like kind of changing how people perceive that is as much of a KPI as like the successes themselves, making sure that the community walks away saying, wow, I learned something today. Wow, my brain is healthier because I learned that there, while also making sure that we give back to the community in like really important ways.
With almost 60% increase like year over year, is there one key catalyst of like, oh, well, we got this set to replace Picasso and that's driving a bunch? Or is it kind of the result of a handful of little things compounding?
I mean, it's a handful of little things compounding. I mean, I would say there's as much impact. Like we had Annie Leibovitz at the beginning of the year for the first, 2 months of the fiscal year. So like that led directly to, there being that much more people. But even when you stripped away Annie Leibovitz, we were still like 10% year over year above. So, but then you look at things like, I don't know if you've heard of FOMO night.
No, I don't know.
So FOMO night is something that we do with Black Market CLT, with Charlotte is Creative, with Sonorous Wave, with the Beckler, the Gant. I should have mentioned the museums first. The Beckler, the Gant, occasionally Blumenthal, occasionally Center City Partners. Basically, we try to tie it around to Charlotte Shout or to CIAF. In the last one we held, we had 8,000 people come. And we had a huge block party on Levine Avenue for Levine Center for the Arts Avenue, Levine Avenue, whatever it's called. And so like that is bringing in tremendous amounts of, that was millennial, that was Gen Z, just coming to enjoy the museum, but also enjoy like activities and activations that we did. So that the success of bringing in those younger people, and those are people that are heavily weighing towards Black and Brown community. So it's like breaking down those barriers that have existed historically with the museum. And like we do that in tons of different ways.
Yeah. When it sounds like the Mint Museum, I know partners with a whole bunch of different organizations and companies and brands. And in terms of like, say like a lot of our membership base is older folks, and we need to find a way in our marketing puzzle to have a piece for younger folks. Is a piece of that of like, hey, this influencer in town has a lot of folks. Like, what does that kind of, do you go out and find people who have the audience? Do they kind of pop up in your algorithm?
It's both. I mean, honestly, a lot of like the CLT development thing has been relational, like purely relational. Like I still go to influencer events as CLT development to develop those relationships with people. And then I can tap them for Mint Museum things. Like we have trusted influencers that we like to work with like Daily Dre, who I've sat in this studio with before, for
Shout out
Charlotte
Dre.
Unplugged. I mean, and even your wife, like there's so many people that like I have, developed great relationships with that we can work with, whether it be paid or whether it be, them coming in because they like the product that we've put out or the exhibition that we've put out. So, we can tap on people like that. And there's tons of different, as a museum that does exhibitions for tons of different cultures. Like we're really trying to tap into change makers in those cultures. Like we have a Congolese exhibition coming up in February. So right now I'm trying to look into who is influential, like in the African diaspora in Charlotte, and like who can, talk authentically about, that. We have a sneakers exhibition right now called Future Now. So me and along with Davita Galloway of Dup and Swat and like a million other things. I don't know if you know Davita, but she's absolutely incredible. She's got a store at Camp North End called Dup and Swat. But she and I catered and curated a list of sneaker influencers from Charlotte to Atlanta. Had a 45-person influencer event. And I mean, some of these people are major influencers. Some of them are micro influencers.
Sure.
You have people that have, 2,300 followers, but they have 2,300 followers that care about sneakers.
Yeah.
So like those are not necessarily guaranteed visitors, but, a heavy percentage of them are.
Yeah.
So you can't necessarily look at the numbers someone has and be like, okay, this person has 200,000 followers. But, like in the case of Annie Leibowitz, we put together a list of people that were photographers that had over 5,500 followers. And we invited each of them, and actually we sent them we partnered with Big's Camera, and we sent them disposable cameras, and we're like, hey, take pictures of whatever you want, get it developed. And it's on us. And then invited them to an event to actually be able to get a curator-led tour of the exhibition, and then they put out content about it. Like it's like, here's a reward for doing this. Like we might not necessarily have a budget for it, but then like this year we've actually established like a budget for paying people as well.
Yeah,
so
that's really exciting. What a good idea with the old school developed photos.
Yeah.
I remember going with my mom to get photos developed, and then one day it just stopped.
Yeah.
And shout out Biggs. I think that's where I got my unnamed Sony camera.
Oh, really? That's where I got mine as well. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're raking it in off of us.
Yeah.
How much of having those like personal relationships from CLT development, when it is relevant to the Mint Museum, that must be like a value add for like your position.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So like was that kind of just a coincidence of like because you started CLT development as you knew, you're like, one day my plan is to be in Charlotte. So this is my path to getting that clout that I was looking for.
Yeah. And I hate the word clout. Just to underscore
recognition
that again.
or
something. It's whatever.
Like status. I don't want to call it status.
Yeah.
Who knows what to call it? Internet clout.
Yeah.
But
something.
it does get you in the rooms.
Yes.
Like did the Mint Museum, like did you meet people in the Mint Museum through your social media in the first place?
I mean, in some cases, honestly, so really like I put together a really kick-ass like group of people to write me letters of recommendation. Like, so I met a lot of influential people, and that helped me, and it helped me get ahead in tons of different ways.
Sure.
Like learning about like their process, learning about how they got things done, but also helping me get a seat at the table. But like, so the media people that I've been able to make friends with, like that has been super important for the museum. We can call on people to be like, hey, if this press release coming out, I'd love to see that this gets some attention.
Yeah.
So like that's been super helpful. But then at the Mint, I've been able to meet different types of influencers. Like I've really doubled down in like my relationships with city council people, with county commissioners. Today, I just found out I'm a finalist for the Metropolitan or for the Mecklenburg Public Transit Authority.
Sweet.
Thanks to
Congrats.
the county, with local and state politicians, even national politicians. So like I have met more people in those realms, as well as donors, as well as people that are very prominent in the business community. So like I've been able to shift my gears to not just have contacts that are in the media sphere, the influencer sphere, but also like the state and local politics sphere. So, and that's been like a whole different thing that's changed. And I don't even know if I answered that question correctly.
No, that was great. A question I have is about your social media. Being in those like rooms and being in those like the networking and meeting all the folks, like of like your pie of success, like what percentage of CLT development's like success would you put to having information that like only you have at the time, like having exclusive information or having information first versus like you having a good way of telling the story about that news, regardless of if you're the first person to break it?
I mean, I think it really depends. It's like 50-50. I think number one, the most successful thing about CLT development is the name. It tells you exactly what it's going to be. So, and then, you know, and a lot of this has been Jason Thomas and I. Like, it's funny. People used to think we were adversaries, but like, I think there's 3 people in my life that I talk to the most. Well, 4. There's my wife, my mom, and Jason Thomas.
Jason Thomas.
And then also my friend Kevin. Kevin's a real estate agent, and he is a consumer of information, especially when it comes to like jobs and like and economic development stuff. Like
Sure.
So between like Jason and Kevin and like other people I have, like, you know, we do tend to get information first. Like Jason and I pride ourselves on the fact that we can dig up things before anybody. We don't always get a seat at the table because places like Axios have 460,000 followers.
Yeah.
We have, you know, collectively like 50.
Sure.
But like, so those successes and being able to get things out first, yes, has been important, but I think that the storytelling is way more important personally.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to be first all the time
No,
and
yeah.
to get those exclusive things. So yeah, like if you can, like, it doesn't matter. I can be 5th of who you've heard this story or you've heard this news about, but you come to me because of the thing, like maybe you tell it in a different way, or you're just telling it specifically from the development angle versus like,
yeah. And like we had, so we didn't get the exclusive on Panko and Noda, which sad because we posted about it first originally, but they came to us with pictures of food, and like it's like, okay, but here's the thing: we know that does not perform well on our page. We need pictures of spaces, of vibes, of like what someone can expect when they walk in the door versus what they can expect when they get their food on the table. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff you need to know. I mean, that's the knowledge of the algorithm, but that's also the knowledge of your audience.
Was there a point in time where you were kind of just like taking what you could get, and if, hey, the news I have and what they gave me is food photos, so that's what I'm going to post. Eventually you must like have enough clout and experience to be like, I know this doesn't work, so I'm not like, we need to do it differently or I'm not going to do it.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
How
I will definitely pick and choose, like, especially when I was doing CLT development way more often, like I would fill those gaps. Like I would turn down things and fill those gaps with something that interested me, whether it had been the Craney Awards or something like that, which were really fun. And I did a lot of graphic design work, and one of the cool things that I would do when I was working with Charlotte 5 and Axios is like I would propose things that I would do if I had the keys to the car, like things that other people weren't doing. They were doing informative stuff. I was like, here is my pie in the sky idea. Here's how I would do it, and this is why it would be a good idea. So like just putting things out into the ether.
Yeah.
As content fillers that people could react to, could talk about, have conversations about, versus just doing like news.
Yes. Has anything that you've put out into the ether turned into something real, like a pie in the sky idea? We're like, that was my idea.
yes, but I won't say what.
Now,
A couple things. But,
Okay.
And honestly, there's some things that I'm working on a very high level right now that are things that I've always wanted to do, but I can't talk about those.
Got it. Sure. Well, I know one of the things that I see on your page that always does well and that I'm interested in is when you have like the renderings. Here's what this could look like. That gets people excited because then they can like see it. So now with things like ChatGPT or other image generator tools, like when you have a pie in the sky idea, do you go right in and say, here's this block, like replace it with a baseball stadium and show me what it looks like?
Not so much. I mean, I've used ChatGPT when I first, we haven't even talked about, I have a podcast as well, called Shaping Charlotte. But when I was first marketing Shaping Charlotte, I used ChatGPT a couple times to create different visuals and scenarios that I was like, hey, this represents this. This is about all of the time I have because somehow I decided to start a podcast during a time. I actually had 28 events in 21 days over a 21-day stretch, and I was also recording a podcast.
Wow.
Once a week during that time. So like I was like, oh God, I barely have time to market this. Like, what am I gonna do? So I started doing the Chat GPT, and it was working okay. But then I shifted gears over the last 8 episodes to actually talking on camera in scenarios that represented what we were going to talk about. And like that really took off and did well.
Got it.
So like I felt like creating something authentic instead of, using machine learning and all that good stuff to create images worked better. And honestly, it's funny, like the images that I would create back in 2015, 16, when I was working with Charlotte Agenda, were painstakingly created in Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, even Revit and things like that. I would create like models and then write about it. And now it's crazy that I could potentially, I think I'm a little too OCD
Sure.
to do that. Like I get mad at ChatGPT because it doesn't get exactly what I want to do. I use it more as an organizational tool for thoughts and for outlines. I'll put in all the things I want to get accomplished, like all the talking points and things like that, and then put it through ChatGPT to create a flow that makes sense. But like for the image generation, it's just not, I am too precise to ever use it, I think, for something like that.
Yeah. I think that makes total sense. And I bet in the very near future, it will be precise to the point that you want. Have you heard of Sora?
Yeah.
That's because
I got invited to it, and I need to go and check it out. I just haven't had time yet.
It's really cool because you could like either you could go to the place, so like a middle ground of like what you're saying of like authentically actually being there. You could do something like you're like, here I am at what will soon be, whatever. And then you say, hey, Sora, like here I am in Charlotte, like you could give it a picture of like the building and it can like put it in there.
Wow.
And it's not like perfect, but like it's cool and it's scary how good it is because in a few months it's going to be hard to tell the difference.
I know. I'm so scared of that.
And then I heard this theory on TikTok that I actually am buying into. And this guy was saying that like there will be so much AI content that like people will stop wanting to go onto social media as much, and because they won't be able to discern like what's real and what's not, that they'll maybe put the phones down a little bit and go actually
I hope so.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because social media can do some cool things, but it can do a lot of bad things too.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, like I think some of the rejection of that is leading to some of the brightest things that are happening in Charlotte right now, honestly.
Okay.
So, I mean, like we talked about collaboration earlier, but like there has been such an incredible, these folks are maybe meeting on social. I don't know. Maybe they're meeting each other at their own at each other's restaurants, but like the spirit of collaboration has permeated our food scene of late.
Yes.
To the point where like so many different cool brands are coming together to do things. They are cross-pollinating like their audiences, their demographics, whatever, to create a larger audience because they're collaborating.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if you've been to any of the pop-ups from Hello Uncle, or from a chic bakery, or from even Rada has done collaborations with Stable Hand, which is one of my favorite spots over in Loso. I hate to call it. I'm going to call it Sedgefield in this case. And then they also did one with Substrate. But like these brands are coming together to do incredible things. Like last week I went to, or actually Saturday, I went to a collaboration with a chic bakery, which he is a engineer who makes the most incredible pastries.
Cool.
And he collaborated with Zombies Pizza, and did a breakfast croissant pop-up. It was fantastic, and they're known for their giant pizza slices. Well, he made a larger than life croissant as well.
Sweet.
That was almost as large as one of the pizza slices, and he was selling one of those croissants with egg and bacon, egg and cheese rather, for like $30, but it was like you couldn't even eat it, so you could split it between two people, easy peasy.
Sure.
But like people are creating these opportunities, and I also went to Chutney Cat, who's an incredible Indian restaurant. Their owner's Arjun. He's from Detroit, moved here maybe 3-4 years ago. He did a collaboration with John G's.
Cool.
I stood in that line for 4 hours.
Wow.
Because they were able to reach two different audiences that don't necessarily come together to introduce the people looking for Indian food to barbecue, and the barbecue people to Indian food. And like that is like the greatest way to like bring about change in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Like as far as our food scene goes, as far as our cultural scene goes. And like it's just so important.
Yeah. Well, and at the very least, it's giving people something to do.
Yeah.
You know, like,
well,
hey,
and
let's
that's the people that complain about not having anything to do. But I feel like those same people that complain about not having anything to do are also the people that are complaining about 157 people moving to Charlotte every day. They're like, I want more of this, but I don't want any more people. Whereas those people are bringing their experiences, their passions, their vocations, maybe their culture, so that you can actually fill the gap of what is missing supposedly in your life.
Right. Yeah, I feel that. I think there's going to be some people who will never be happy no matter what.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, there is like a lane of TikTok or Instagram that it's like cool to like just shit on Charlotte, which I don't really understand.
No.
Because I think Charlotte's a pretty cool town. Yeah, it all depends like what you're looking for. If you're looking for the good things, you'll find it. If you're looking for what is missing, like you'll probably no city's perfect. No city. It's not New York City. We don't have everything here.
Well, it's the people that complain about something missing and then don't do something about it. Like I see things that are missing. I want to try to do something about it. I want to try to help. You know, I find that person that is doing that thing that it already and figure out how can I support them? How can I bring some more attention to them so that they can start, succeeding?
Yeah. What are some of the things going into the future of Charlotte? What are some of the things that like you hope comes to the city?
Okay. So I have this. So people talk about affordable housing all the time. I am on, which is hugely important, I'm on the affordable commercial space beat. Like we need more. Like we need more of everything, but we need more space more than anything. Because like, you go to Front Porch Sunday, for instance, and you see like 60 vendors right there that are trying to become a small business with a brick and mortar footprint, most likely.
Yep.
Like they need spaces. And like I want to see more, from a zoning perspective, from a innovation perspective, I want to see more spaces created for people. And like one of the ways that I think that could be done, and this will require a zoning change, is, breweries right now, as more people are starting to say, I don't want to drink beer, a lot of them are starting to struggle, which it always makes me a little upset when people are like, oh, what is it going to be? Another brewery? Well, I hate to tell you, they're not doing well. Yeah. Or I'm pleased to tell you, I guess. But like, I'd like to see some of those people that have these giant spaces figure out ways to smartly subdivide those spaces to create more small brick and mortar spaces, whether they be 200 square feet, whether they be 500 square feet, whether they be 2,000 square feet. There's also been really great strides taken towards creating more micro retail in Charlotte. Ascent Properties or Ascent Real Estate, they have done the what was called Centro Noda. There was Centro South End. There's been all these Centro projects. One is now called the Winifred. It's actually the Winifred is where a new formerly pop-up bakery called, shoot, I can't think of what it's called. Whatever. Anyways,
Insert
we need
bakery name here.
insert bakery. But now they've started opening up the one in Noda, and it has, it'll have a hoagie shop, it'll have a coffee shop, it already has a clothing store called Queen and Cotton. It's my good friend Travis,
Cool.
and my neighbor owns it. It has a kids store, and it has a hair salon. It'll have, so many different things. It has Paletas place.
Yep.
So like, we need more of those micro retail spaces so people can realize their dreams, because a lot of what's happening is like you get these big giant spaces that can only be afforded by chains. We need to continue to look into how we can actually build things for people, because the only way we're going to get all the things that people want is by providing spaces for people.
I did not think about that. That is a really good call out. You had the big spaces in the prime location. It's hard for that being your first business.
Yeah.
So like, I think people are aware enough that, we need more first time home properties. Like, we need first time business properties too, or at least first brick and mortar. Like, hey, I've been doing this pop up. I'm ready to grow, but I can't afford 2,000 square feet. I need 500. And
that came to like my attention because I'm a planning commissioner for the city of Charlotte, and we listen to and vote on all the rezonings in Charlotte. And there was a city property that came up for rezoning. The city was going to put in tiny houses there. And it was in the Belmont neighborhood. And a guy from the neighborhood came out and said, hey, I am actually against this affordable housing. But it's only because if you look at our neighborhood, we have the highest concentration of affordable housing in Charlotte. And at the same time, we have the lowest concentration of commercial space. 1%, I think it was, of the properties in the Belmont neighborhood were commercial. So there was nowhere for anyone in that neighborhood. They could afford to live there, but they didn't have anywhere to work.
Yeah.
So they needed a place to work. So he was saying, hey, instead of doing affordable housing here, why don't you do affordable commercial space and make that a pilot of the city of Charlotte? So like, that's one thing that, talking to the Urban Land Institute, talking to city council, talking to even county commission, like that's one thing that I think we really need to pay attention to, because like we need places. Not everyone wants to go work at the bank. Not everyone wants to go do this and that. There's a big slice of people that are entrepreneurs. And like I said earlier, when you go to Front Porch Sunday, when you go to Noda Hood Market, when you go to OMB's Holiday Market, like those people want a space where they can sell their wares, they can cook their food, they can, do something that makes them satisfied and makes them the money to live where they want to live.
Is there a place or like a city councilman or woman that has a place we can go to learn more about that if anyone's interested?
Gosh, I would just
put it in the description later.
Yeah, I could put it in the description later. But this is something that I'm kind of spearheading myself.
Okay.
So, as I continue to like make changes and try to influence things from like a civic perspective. At some point I will run for office.
That was gonna be my question.
So, but like I have learned that I can be just as effective like in this kind of advocacy role as I get to know people and get to, just kind of talk about what I think would be better for the city. Because there's all these areas that it's like, hey, we could be doing that, we could be doing this, but we need leadership to actually know that, and that's one of the things that I try to advocate for. And it'll be a big thing that we try to cover in the next season of my podcast.
That's a great idea. I can totally see you running for city council or something one day soon.
We'll see. My mentor tells me I got to wait till I'm 50. So, and I'm 40 now. He said I got to make some money before I agree to, because. City council people are part-time, most of them. A few of them are doing this full-time because, they can. But like, it's not a high-paying position. you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I would be doing city council and working at the Mint at the same time, which I could totally do. I've had multiple full-time jobs before.
Yeah.
But, you know, it at some point that becomes hard.
Yeah. Well, and you need to finance a campaign and all the other stuff. And yeah. So, well, Clayton, I really appreciate you coming here. I think our hour is coming up to an end. Is there one last thing you would like to leave the audience with here today?
Oh man. You know, I want to just underscore if you want to see something change in your community, you got to be someone that helps make that change happen. You know, you can't just be shouting from the sidelines. You know, that doesn't make an impact. If you're truly passionate about something, you got to do it.
Yep. And not
And you
troll
can
in the
also,
comment section.
oh gosh, no. And if I hear any of you say, is another brewery going there? I'm just kidding. I'm not find you. But, you know, you're not doing any impact by doing that. But you can follow me at CLTDevelopment. You should listen to the Shaping Charlotte podcast. You know, I had co-host Tesho Akindelli. He's a former MLS player, one of my dear friends. And we broke down basically the transit referendum for 12 days, or not 12 days, for 12 episodes, from, you know, each modes, how they work, what their future is. And then we talked about transit from an economic development perspective, from an upward mobility perspective, from a transit-oriented development perspective, and so many different facets, because this referendum that just passed is now going to become a very real part of our lives over the next 30 years. So it's important for people to get informed on what that's going to look like, and where they can push and, you know, push and pull and make changes for their community that will work for them. Because like ultimately 157 people are moving here a day. That's a lot of people. That's the entire region, but we need to be able to move those people effectively. We need to be able to house those people effectively. And we need to also create opportunities for them to have their own businesses.
Yeah.
So listen to the podcast, get inspired for your community, fight for your community.
Love it. And find more of Clayton on the Shaping Charlotte podcast and at CLT Development. This has been a great episode. Thanks for coming by, sir.
For sure, man.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.